You are listening to Let's Talk Trio on podcasts. Keep up with the latest episodes by downloading the Podbean app or stream episodes via our social media accounts. Search for Let's Talk Trio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This episode is sponsored by StudentAccess. StudentAccess, the leader in Trio software. StudentAccess is an online database solution that allows Trio programs to track their students' information, connect with students by text messages, streamline the APR, and work from anywhere, all online, with automatic updates for changes from the Department of Education. Their technical support team includes former Trio staff and has over 50 years of combined experience working with Trio. Make it easier to focus on your priority, the students. For more information and to request a free demo, visit their website at www.studentaccess.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-801-1232. That website again is www.studentaccess.com or 1-800-801-1232. Be sure to share your favorite episodes on your social media by tapping that share button. This is a great way to support the podcast. Now here's your host, Juan Rivas.
Thank you, Amelia, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, listener, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Trio. This is Season 7, Episode 4. I am your host, Juan Rivas. Thank you for tuning in, downloading, and streaming this episode from your favorite podcast platform. Before we begin, some announcements. Heads up, Trio community, the Council for Opportunity in Education's 2025 Policy Seminar is coming up on Sunday, March 16th through Wednesday, March 19th at Washington, D.C. Go to COE's website to look at registration details. The link is provided on the podcast description. With constant changes happening at the presidential level and impacting Trio programs, now is the time to advocate for Trio. Make sure you reserve your spot today. The 2025 Trio Student Access and Success Conference hosted by North Carolina Central University is happening Thursday, April 10th through Saturday, April 12th. The Trio Student Access and Success Conference is a 3-day student development conference designed to provide Trio and accessibility scholars with the opportunity to experience community engagement, academic and personal development, networking, and overall enrichment. Visit the conference website for more information and to register. The link is provided in the podcast description. In today's episode, we have Jamie McDowell, a graduate student at Colorado State University studying student affairs and higher education and Trio alum of the ACE program and graduate of Loyola University in Chicago. Jamie is on the podcast to share her life experience, her Trio journey, and studying for a master's program. Coming up in just a bit, Jamie McDowell. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Vialpando, Rosario Riley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Jeff Nepute, Angelica Valdez, Felicia Rivera, Eric LaMaster, Jeff Kahlden, and Jaded Electronics. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, TrioJoblist.com, NOSOTROS Education Center, TheTrioStore.com, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio graduation stoles. And Student Access. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. You too can be a sponsor of the podcast. Head on over to Patreon and search for Let's Talk Trio. Choose one of 4 patron levels. You can support this podcast for as little as $1 a month. If you own a business and would like to support this podcast, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com for sponsorship packages. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast business PayPal account. Our business handle is @Let'sTalkTrio. Your support helps lift Trio voices. If you would like to nominate a participant, staff, advocate, or alumni to be on the podcast, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. Again, a great episode featuring Jamie McDowell, Trio alum of ACE and current graduate student at Colorado State University. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Hi, Trio Nation. My guest on the Let's Talk Trio podcast is a Trio alum and is currently studying for their master's program in Student Affairs and Higher Education degree. She earned her bachelor's degree in psychology from Loyola University in Chicago, a Provost Fellowship research recipient, Spirit of ACE Award winner, undergraduate woman leader nominee, and proud first-generation graduate. She continues to work towards her commitment to equity on campus through her graduate work and professional aspirations. In their spare time, my guest enjoys hiking, learning new recipes, and spending time with their two cats. It is an honor to have on this podcast Jamie McDowell. Jamie, welcome.
Hello, One and Trio Nation. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we thank you for agreeing to be on this podcast.
It's an honor to be here.
So how's the start of your 2025 going?
Despite all the craziness, this is always my favorite part of the year. So I think there's a lot of possibility in a new year. So how about yourself?
Oh, no, equally agreed. I think the turn of a new year always brings out hope and optimism and hope for change. So absolutely right there with you. And the start of this semester is crazy as always. As you know, I serve as an advisor for CSU Online. So it feels like it's been slowly putting out fires here and there and then making sure that all students are good. But I'm sure you as a graduate student, that's a totally different aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Beginning of the semester, no matter what you're doing in higher education, can definitely be a little bit crazy.
Absolutely. Can you talk to us about your hobbies and interests? How did those begin for you?
Yeah. So recently I've sort of had a rebirth in my interest for cooking. So I've always loved cooking ever since I was young. Specifically, my mom and my grandma really involved me in learning the family recipes. And so I've always appreciated cooking and, what it can do to express care for yourself and others. But as I got into college, I had to rely a lot on ramen and pasta nights, as I'm sure many students know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so now that I've gotten a little more stable and definitely more creative, I've been able to explore recipes from different cultures, and my twin brother is super good at like the technique portion of cooking, so he's been teaching me that, so it's been really rewarding.
Oh, that's awesome. So I did not know that you had you have a twin brother. That must be an awesome dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. My mom sort of brought us up on the idea that we had a built-in best friend. So
That's awesome.
that was really fun. Yeah.
So a little reflection question. What is something you learned about yourself in 2024, and what is something you look forward to in 2025?
Yeah, so in 2024, I really sort of struggled with being present a lot. I feel like a lot of times when we get busy, you can sort of feel like your life is, going by without you playing a part in it. So I really learned a lot about just like being present and how to balance having a full, really fast-paced life with, being present to enjoy it. And so I'm really looking forward to sort of applying that this year, especially in my graduate program, and really taking advantage of all the opportunities it has to offer.
That's awesome. And we will talk about your graduate program here in just a little bit. What is something that people don't know about you?
So it's a dream of mine to volunteer at a cow sanctuary.
A cow sanctuary?
Yeah, so I found out there are some, places around the country who take like retired dairy cows and things like that in to sort of ease them into their next phase of their life. And so I really love cows. It would just be a cool interest of mine to, volunteer at one of those.
That's awesome. So I never thought about like a retirement community for cows. That kind of comes to mind.
Yeah.
Is this the first podcast you've ever been on? Like this is the first podcast you've ever done?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super glad this is my first one.
So have you listened to podcasts, or do you have like a podcast that's kind of your go-to that you do listen to?
So I listen to a lot of different podcasts. One that I do go back to a lot is one by a guy called Hines, who's sort of just like 15-minute snippets to begin your day with,
Oh,
things like
nice.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like to sort of search the variety, anything from like horror podcasts to self-improvement.
Awesome. And I think the podcast community really enjoys the horror aspect, whether it's true crime or paranormal. They seem to be like the very popular genres for podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now that we've got some warm-up questions in, are you ready to talk about your educational journey?
Yeah.
So I always begin right at the beginning. Can you talk to us about your upbringing? What was that like for you?
Sure. So, my home was made up of two loving parents. I have two older siblings, my twin brother I had mentioned before, and then myself. I also had sort of siblings by choice. So, friends of myself, my siblings, whom my parents were always willing to take in if they needed a place. So, we had a very full, loving home.
Mm-hmm.
My parents were super hardworking, and although we always struggled financially, they managed to move us from the south side of Chicago to a suburb in Indiana when I was really young. So, yeah, sort of there, I really took an interest in school and all of the extracurriculars that a different sort of community could offer. And so that was really nice. And then, you know, every family, of course, has their issues, especially when there are financial struggles involved. And so, we additionally had a lot of help from my aunt and grandma who sort of like raised us as well. So, certainly takes a village, especially, when you have that many kids involved.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. How would your family describe you?
I would hope well. I think most of them would agree that I'm ambitious, sometimes a little bit too much for my own good, but that I always try my best in everything I do, even when I do get in over my head.
When you have those ambitious goals and where you set yourself up for those high achieving goals, does it deter you any when you encounter challenges?
I think everybody encounters hardships, especially with certain insecurities.
Hmm.
But I sort of like to approach them as sort of, the challenge is the way.
Hmm.
So if I have something that I struggle with, sometimes it can be a really good response to dig really deep into it and sort of use that as motivation to get over it. And so I think a lot of students, especially, non-traditional students, can be really resilient in that way. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Did your family place a lot of importance or emphasize education?
yeah, so my family really encouraged education in the way that they really fostered what we were interested in. And so, having a lot of different kids with different personalities and interests in the house, we didn't all, have to excel in school or be straight A students. But if we showed, an interest in a certain subject, my parents were always, really willing to help us explore that subject. And so, um, yeah, I think they really encouraged us to explore our interests wherever they took us, especially in school.
Right on. So it sounds like family, mom and dad provided that support. They gave that foundation of being able to support if that's the direction you wanted to go. So this next question is, what was your attitude or feeling towards school, and did you have a favorite subject?
Yeah, so, I grew up surrounded by, all the women in my family were very avid readers. And so I really admired that. And also, like, my parents read to us when we were young. I was really excited to learn how to do it by myself, even, as a young kid. And I think by the time that I actually entered school, I was really excited by everything that I might be able to learn, and all the things that I saw, um, my family members doing, like being able to read or figure out math problems or things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as my favorite subject goes, I was definitely a science kid growing up.
Really? All
Yeah,
right.
loved biology, loved all the bugs, loved Bill Nye. Was part of that generation, so that was great.
Right on.
Yeah, it just seemed like really a lot of fun. Like you could ask any question in the world and science could answer it. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I ended up pursuing science until I was a junior in college and decided to go a different direction. So,
Wow.
big part of my life. Still a good favorite subject.
Absolutely. I think science is I struggled in science. I'm not going to lie to you. But I think later on in life, I developed an appreciation for science and the research method and why scientists do the things they do. And it made me realize, like, wow, there's a lot of work that goes behind forming theories and forming a lot of not conclusions, but definitely drawing, I don't know what to call it. But yeah, definitely drawing on those kind of results. There you go. That's the word. Drawing on results. Um, what do you remember most about the early part of your educational journey?
Yeah, so obviously in elementary school, I was really enthusiastic about school and anything school related. So I loved going to school. I loved reading at home. I was very proud to share my accomplishments with my family. Anybody who grew up in a multi-sibling household, it's always nice to be able to get brownie points with your
Oh, for
parents.
sure.
So, yeah,
Yes.
that was always a nice little addition to it. Um, yeah, middle school, I think, as for everyone, was a little harder for me. Although I obviously still enjoyed learning. Math had become really difficult for me. And I also, regular teen stuff, you have issues with your peers, personal problems that distract you from your studies. So definitely still enjoyed learning, but, very normal challenges for that life period.
Absolutely. Did any academic or extracurricular activities or interests develop around this time for you?
Yeah, so I had always been involved in softball and dance when I was young. My mom had been an athlete all throughout high school. She played softball as well, so
Mm.
really encouraged us to like get out and be active. But going into middle school, you start to get placed into leagues and things like that. And so
Mhm.
I sort of stepped away from athletics and shifted into choir and theater instead.
Right on. What was it about theater and choir that you really enjoyed, and what was the draw? What really pulled you in?
Yeah, so in addition to having like some friends who, when you get into middle school, they all filter into their interests. And so, I don't know if it's everybody's experience, but I had friends kind of sprinkled all over. And so I felt a little more confident to try other things. And so um, choir was a lot of fun because I always really loved music already.
Mhm.
And so it just sort of seemed like a natural thing for me to do. I needed electives for high school anyway, so it was sort of the natural choice for me. And then with theater, it was really this like sense of community that I
Mhm.
saw people being able to like, produce something all together as a group, I thought was really cool.
Absolutely. Can you, and I'm going to stick on this theater choir point for just a bit. What either roles did you like in theater, or what parts in choir did you enjoy the most?
Okay. So with theater in particular, I was definitely never like the lead singer or anything like that. So
Mm.
I really enjoyed when we did like plays versus musicals.
Gotcha.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. I obviously loved the musicals. I was always part of the ensemble and stuff, but yeah, I was never meant to be a standout singer. I did much better in choir. Um,
Gotcha.
yeah, but I did pretty much everything in theater. I got to direct a show, I worked the house, I built props and stuff. So,
Wow.
um, yeah, it was a really cool experience getting to do everything. But yeah, definitely making the scenery and props too was a totally different skill I never thought I would
Absolutely.
get when I joined. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Are you seeking guidance to enhance your TRIO project's effectiveness and success? Look no further. Nosotros Education Center, NEC, is here to empower your TRIO project with expert consulting services. NEC's mission is to promote the effectiveness and impact of TRIO programs. Since 2003, NEC has specialized in providing professional development and in-service staff trainings, allowable cost services, for TRIO projects across the country. The team at NEC, with over 60 years of combined TRIO experience, offers customized workshops and seminars for project staff, compliance assessments, external evaluations, working on and submitting APRs, database customization and training, development of policies and procedures manuals, and project implementation or reorganization services. Additionally, NEC has secured over $774 million in federal funding with a 92% success rate through their live and on-demand proposal workshops, assistance with data collection and review, detailed technical reviews, and comprehensive proposal development services. Join the hundreds of colleges, agencies, and TRIO projects across the country who benefited from NEC's expertise. Nosotros Education Center, your partner in TRIO's project success. Visit their website at nosotros.edu.org. Again, that's nosotros.edu.org.
And now, back to the podcast.
Did those interests, choir and theater, carry over into your high school years?
yeah. So, I did both choir and theater all throughout high school. And then being in theater, I got exposed to speech and debate, so I did that as well. Poetry club, tutored in chemistry. I just about did anything that interested me in high school. And so those were definitely my two that stood out for my entire high school career, though.
I'm going to put you on the spot for a little bit. For poetry club, did you write your own poems or did you analyze poems that were already written? How did that poetry club work?
Yeah, so we did a few different things. So we had about an hour for each poetry club. So at the beginning, we'd start with some sort of like prompt or something, and anybody could write any sort of style poem they wanted to off of that prompt. And then after we shared whatever we wanted to share, things like that, a different student would pick a poem to read to the class and have the class sort of discuss about.
Right on. What about for speech? That's or speech and debate. It's very fascinating. So when I talk to various TRIO guests who have been on the podcast, they have a variety of interests. But when speech and debate gets highlighted, it's one of those where it's not that. So either you fall in the category of I'm just really good at arguing, or someone that's truly wanting to learn the all sides of an argument to kind of come to and draw to their own conclusions. Where do you fall in that category?
Yeah, so I did both speech and debate. So like speech was interesting because it was more so like kind of theater, putting on your own sort of play. And so that was interesting because the different categories you could learn from, or you could essentially perform them, which gave me a different perspective in debate where I was sort of more trying to get at people's stories and what they were trying to, sort of the goal of what they were saying. And so it was less so, you know, some people take the prove the point approach. I sort of took the do you believe your own, point kind of approach.
All right, I like that.
Yeah.
And this next question is, so in preparation for high school, did you do a lot of preparation, or did your family talk to you a lot about what to expect in high school?
So it's interesting because I had two older siblings who had already been through high school. by the time that my twin and I were entering. And so as far as like preparation on my family's side goes, there wasn't too much, especially because I was already a very like interested and self-driven student. There sort of wasn't a lot of preparation in that way. But I will say, I personally tried to prepare for high school as best as I could. But yeah, we sort of just saw it as the next natural step in my schooling. So it wasn't as big of a deal as like when I was preparing for college.
Speaking of going to college, when did the possibility of going to college enter your mind? Which was wonderful segue, by the way.
I don't actually remember exactly when I found out about college as a concept, but I remember wanting to go as early as like 5 years old, you know, seeing people in TV shows or movies going to college and being like, oh, that's really cool. I want to do that. And I would actually think about like how good I needed to do in school, even in, you know, first grade, second grade, because you know, I had to get into college one day. So definitely something that was on my mind pretty much the entire time I was in school.
Who did you speak with to discuss college plans?
So I was able to speak to pretty much everyone in my family about college. They were pretty open about like, you know, you're going to have to work really hard because of your circumstances. Like no one's ever been to college in our family before. But if you really want it and you work really hard, you know, I know you're going to get there. So I had a very supportive background for that. So I was able to talk to pretty much anybody in my family about it and sort of get a different perspective.
What colleges did you look into?
So I was able to look into 5 schools when I was applying because of a program my school was doing to avoid fees for low-income students, which is, you know, subsequently my first experience with a TRIO program I didn't know about.
Oh.
But yeah, so I was able to look into, I'm from the Chicagoland area. So I looked into Northwestern, Illinois University, Loyola, obviously, University of Chicago, and then Duke was sort of my like, you know, pipe dream school, if you will.
Right.
And so, you know, I figured if I was going to get 5 I could apply to, I'd take my shot anyway.
Absolutely. Did you get to do a campus tour to any of these colleges? Ooh, sorry. I can re-ask the question. So sorry. I apologize. Did you get to do a campus tour for these colleges?
So only for Loyola, just because I couldn't travel very much. You know, both my parents worked, so that was the closest to my house and also the easiest to get to. So, you know, we visited that one and it ended up being the one I chose.
Right on. I find that a lot of first generation students are comfortable with the colleges that are close by or at least in close proximity. At least that was my experience. And when I speak with other first generation students, that it's a similar experience that they wanted to be close to home. Was that a priority for you that it had to feel close to home or it had to feel like you can return home?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely you know, thought of the possibility of going away for school. And I, you know, Loyola was about 45 minutes from my house, so it still felt far enough for me to feel independent.
Sure.
But yeah, I think for myself and probably for a lot of other, you know, first generation students or low income students, being close to family is really important because, you know, you never know when you're going to be needed.
Absolutely.
And so I think, you know, at least in my experience, family has definitely always been a big priority. So I wanted to make sure, you know, I could be close to home.
Absolutely. Thinking back on this process, what was the most difficult aspect of the College Bound process?
Okay, so it was definitely a lot of, you know, everything at the get-go. So even submitting the college application, when you get accepted, understanding, you know, how much financial aid they've awarded you, what the FAFSA even is. Sort of any of that was really super foreign to me. And because I was the first in my family to go to college, there was no one really around to help me navigate it. And so my mom did a wonderful job of reading along the instructions with me, trying to figure it out. But yeah, I could definitely not understand a lot of like the websites, the prompts, what was expected of you. I think I had to submit the FAFSA like for re-verification 3 times my first semester.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so definitely sort of bridging that gap when you don't have like an alumni or somebody who's experienced to help you through that like first process before you even meet your advisors or anyone.
Wow. Yeah. I remember that process, how lengthy it was. And this is, mind you, so I'm in the era of they were transitioning from paper application to electronic. So my parents were only comfortable doing paper because they could submit, it was physically right there. But oh my gosh, it took us hours just to complete that, or just to complete one section of it. So I know the pain. I know the pain.
Yeah.
Talk about your involvement in high school. What do you remember the most?
So like I said, I was very involved in high school. So I hardly ever remember being home between like the 3 a.m. bus rides to a
Oh
speech
my
meet
gosh.
that's, 4 hours away, or,
Yeah.
late practice for theater. I was always just doing something, which was actually a really nice segue to college, because if you're used to a leisurely lifestyle, it'll definitely pick up.
Absolutely, yes. So you were super busy then, like pretty much go, 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 at least something every single day. And did you internalize that and feel like there was always something to do every single hour of every single day? Did that carry over into college as well?
Yeah, so I definitely was very involved in college as well. I think again, probably for a lot of like first generation students or trio students feel the same, that you want to sort of take advantage of every opportunity you can.
Oh, for
Like
sure.
if
Yeah.
people are willing to take the chance on you, like take the opportunity. And so I definitely had to learn over the course of my time in college that, you can lead a fast-paced lifestyle without, burning yourself out. But
Absolutely.
yeah, still I appreciate a pretty active lifestyle.
Absolutely. So you ultimately decided to choose Loyola. What is it about the school that you liked?
So like I said, I liked that it was a little closer to home for me, so I could see my family if I needed to. Um, it offered the biology program I was originally looking for. And honestly, mostly they offered me the most money to attend.
Hey, that's a
And
good reason
so,
to accept the offer from college.
yeah, especially, it wasn't like they didn't have my program or I had to compromise at all. So it
Yeah.
was nice that they offered me so much. And honestly, after accepting the offer and learning about Trio and all of those things, it really was even in hindsight, probably the best choice for me.
Wonderful. When you graduated from high school, what was that moment like for you? And what was that moment like for your family?
Yeah, so being a twin, my family sort of got a double moment, which is always nice.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so it was an exciting day. And for me personally, getting to graduate with my brother was really special. So that was really nice. A lot of my family was able to attend. So that was really exciting. And both my brother and I at the time had plans, for after we graduate. So yeah, it was a really nice moment for us.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna not to make it all about your brother, but we're gonna take a moment here
Mhm.
because so you decided you're gonna go to college. What was your brother's path and what did that look like for him? Was it to follow the same path that you were on, or was he taking a different path?
Yeah, so my brother has so many different interests.
Hmm.
And so he sort of had thought about a couple different ideas. Originally, he had gone to a college closer to home. And so we actually started on the same day. It was so hard for my parents because they were moving me in Chicago, and they
Oh,
were,
yeah.
trying to send him off for his first day of school and whatnot. But
Mhm.
yeah, he's always been sort of more on the business entrepreneurial side. So
Oh, neat.
he's tried a lot of different things. He's tried college, he's tried his own independent businesses. And so his journeys looked a lot different than mine, but definitely just as exciting. Like he's also a go, go, go kind of person.
So just as driven.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So before we get into the whole college experience, I like to reflect with guests to talk about that moment before entering college. Were you in full prep mode? What did you do after graduation? How did you feel your summers?
So I definitely really tried to enjoy my summer, especially with my friends. But I've always been a planner, so I just can't help myself. I was, buying my class materials in like June, checking my email every
Oh, wow.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely was a little bit too excited.
I
Um,
mean, there's no such thing as too excited, right? You were trying to eliminate as many questions and barriers as possible before you entered.
yeah, absolutely. I like to know how things are gonna go before they happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, Describe the moment you set foot to campus. What did you feel?
Yeah, so being on campus for the first time was actually a lot more profound for me than I thought. This was something I had familiarized myself with all my life. I knew I was going to go to college. And so it was less about, any doubt that I would get here, just about waiting for it to happen.
Mhm.
Um, and I sort of was unexpected the response that I had because I was really nervous, but also really excited and just thought that I would, step on campus and get moving like I always had, determined to do my best. But, um, the college campus itself was just not like anything I'd ever experienced. And so,
Right.
um, not only was it a college campus where there's like, 30,000 students walking any which way and all these different buildings you can't make sense of, but also,
Hmm.
um, Loyola was a pretty affluent school.
Hmm.
Um, and so I definitely experienced a lot of like culture shock and imposter syndrome that I really wasn't expecting right away.
Mm.
Because, I had sort of built up this idea in my head that I was always going to go to college, so I belong here. Um, and so that was definitely something that I had to sort of work through. But I was
Mhm.
also really excited because I got to meet the other trio students. Um, right before school started and stuff. So
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah, it really helped combat that sort of like imposter syndrome. And, you're a freshman, you're like nervous. Am I supposed to be here? So
Yes, absolutely. To stick on this point for a minute, because for a lot of entering students that are freshmen, never first generation, never went to college, families never went to college, and they're entering college. You're absolutely right. There's this feeling of, do I even belong here? People seem to be doing things that I'm not doing, and that I should have been
mhm.
prepared for. Um, I- can you tell us, how did you overcome that? What was some of the things that you did to try to push past that feeling of being an imposter on campus?
Yeah, so for one, like I said, having my trio community, we had a program called Achieving College Excellence. And my cohort was about 30 students in my grade. I
Hmm.
think the program at the time had a little over 60 students total in it. We were the largest coming in class. Um, but so having those students around me and sort of coming from similar backgrounds, one really helped to have that representation.
Hmm.
Um, but two, I think also clubs on campus really helped. And so like being able to be a part of like, we had a group called Women in Leadership. And so being able to connect with that identity, being able to see other low-income first-generation college students at ACE, and sort of surrounding myself with people who, you know, made me feel like I belong. And also affirmations are great. I can't
Absolutely.
recommend them enough. Being able to like look yourself in the mirror, even if you are struggling with it, and be like, yeah, I belong here. I'm going to be a great student today. It really helps.
Absolutely. So it sounds like you are pointing and really highlighting like community, being able to connect with organizations that are not just strictly academic, but also fill you and give you a sense of purpose.
Yeah, absolutely.
So did you know what, and I know you kind of answered this question earlier, but it sounds like you already knew or had had this like mindset of what major you wanted. What major did you end up going into?
Yeah, so I started college as a biology pre-med major.
Right. Uh-huh.
And so it wasn't until my junior year that I decided to major in psychology.
What caused the switch?
So I had decided that I no longer wanted to pursue biology, for a number of reasons. I still was really passionate about it, but you know, I didn't quite know what job I wanted to do anymore. And also the sort of culture in the hard sciences can be really competitive. And so, you know, if I wasn't 100%, I didn't want to, you know, try and pursue it if I couldn't give it my all.
Right.
And so I sort of, I don't know, realized, well, I talked with my advisor, Kathleen at ACE, and she sort of helped me realize that like a lot of the extracurricular things I was doing, a lot of the classes that I enjoyed, a lot of the things that I had sort of fallen into just because I found them interesting, were all like within the social sciences and all sort of revolved around psychology. And so it was really great to like hear that advice and then sort of realize that like, oh, my research is in psych. Like this was one of my favorite classes. Like maybe this is something I should pursue just because I have a genuine interest in it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Sorry to veer you a little bit from the questions, but I just wanted to get that kind of sense of like there was a switch that happened. What about careers? So early on, you were thinking about something in biology. Was that impacting your decision on careers? So I think for a lot of college students entering college, they have like an idea of what their path would look like. So they have like a certain path they need to take to get to a certain career. What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so I wanted to pursue biology, not just because I had an interest in it, but because I wanted to be a genetic pathologist.
Ooh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah, my family has a rare genetic disease, and so I've been surrounded by that kind of language my whole life, and it was, you know, always really interesting to me. And sort of in the back of my mind, I had this idea that I was gonna like figure it out, you know.
Yeah, be the person to unlock the puzzle.
Yeah, yeah. And
Gotcha.
so yeah, that really drew me to it. And so yeah, ultimately had me choose biology. And sort of, you know, when I made the switch, thinking about like, I want to still help people. I want to still, you know, stay true to, you know, healing people or helping them through a particular time in their life, but maybe there are other ways I can do that. And if all my interests right now are in psychology, you know, I can find a way to do that through the social sciences.
Absolutely. What are some highlights of your years in your undergraduate experience?
Yeah, so I really enjoyed my undergraduate years. Like I said, I really blossomed in our trio program. I made so many of my friends, memories, learned so many lessons there. So that was amazing. I also got to work with an amazing research team under Dr. Richards and Dr. Tyson at Loyola. So they kind of focused on trauma, resilience, community, identity, all within the frame of like at-risk or underserved youth in Chicago. So that was a really profound experience. Yeah, and so through that was how I was able to do the Provost Fellowship.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really interesting. I loved working with the high school students, and they were so receptive to it too. So it was really nice. And I thought, the premise, especially at the time, of like how social media impacts self-esteem and like their ethnic identity was really powerful. So
That's a big field to study right now, right?
yeah. And especially, it's sort of the changing landscapes in social media and
Oh,
all of
for
the
sure.
different
Yeah.
things we can do with it. Really important to make sure we're focusing on, marginalized groups and also the sort of imagery we put out there because, kids are affected by it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, that was great. But yeah, I had so many, awesome opportunities to connect with people. So,
That's awesome. Well, I'm glad you're researching that because I know in the rise of social media, at least for me, and again, I'm dating myself so badly, it was MySpace and Facebook, and we didn't know this thing, right? It was just something that we used. And now here we are in this middle of a TikTok ban, but it's back, but only certain users can use it because it's still valuable and it's providing some sort of community for folks. So I'm glad
mhm.
that you're researching it because yes, social media still plays a huge impact on young folks.
Yeah.
Um, you ultimately decided to major in psychology. You already kind of gave us a reason of why, but can you tell us what was the initial draw? Was it the advisor that convinced you and said you belong in psychology, or was it you kind of making that realization that psychology was just a better fit?
Yeah, so I think sort of both kind of really happened at the same time. I was very lucky that I had a really close relationship with my advisor. She later ended up being my, supervisor and boss for the mentorship program, so we spent a lot of time together. And I think we both sort of came to the same conclusion that, like, what I was doing, I was working really hard in, but maybe there was another, purpose or program for me.
Hmm.
And honestly, her advice was sort of twofold because not only did it allow me to, sort of clarify for myself where I wanted to go, but also in just her modeling being such a great advisor, now going into a student affairs program, I really draw on her example on, what I wanted to do with a career in psych. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Um, who are the folks that served as your mentors?
So, Kathleen, my advisor, obviously, I can't speak her praises enough. So she was really pivotal to my success. Our trio director, Roy, he was amazing, always gave me opportunities. When I came to him with, an intriguing way to try and do something differently, he always listened, was always able to give advice, even though he was incredibly busy. If anybody doesn't know, or trio program directors are listening to this, you are an insanely busy person all the time. I can guarantee it. So finding time for your
Yeah.
students is, no small feat. Um, Also want to point out a lot of my peers were actually functioned as great mentors for me. So, um, Monica, who served as my co-lead peer mentor in our program, Daniel, our social media director, he was amazing. Radia, mentor, friend, amazing advocate. My entire trio cohort were really pivotal in me learning different perspectives and, just getting to experience college in the way that I did.
To rewind us a little bit, when did you learn about Trio?
So I actually first learned about Trio when I received the email from ACE. And so my high school wasn't, they didn't utilize the Upward Bound program or anything like
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
And so yeah, that was really my first time getting the email about this Achieving College Excellence program and something that had to do with me meeting qualifications for it. And they were like, hey, just fill this out. Like, we have some things that might help you throughout your college experience. And I was like, you know what, I'll do anything, because after the application process and not knowing what FAFSA was and all that, I could definitely use the help. And so it definitely became a huge part of my life after that point.
That's awesome. What did you enjoy most about TRIO?
Definitely the people. I know it sounds like kind of a cliche answer, but yeah.
Not at all.
You really, yeah, TRIO in general is nothing without the people. I mean, my advisors, mentors, peers, everyone really contributed something special to the community. And also, too, I'm sure many people realize that, TRIO advisors are certainly not the most well-paid or the most glamorous position in student affairs or things like that. You're constantly working with people who have something that they believe in. And I think that that makes a big difference.
Absolutely. What was the thing that you enjoyed most? Oh, wait, sorry. Rewind. How did TRIO support your educational journey?
Yeah, so TRIO helped me with so much during, especially undergrad. So access to resources, connections on campus, funds to enjoy conferences. They gave me job opportunities that not only gave me really, really good experience in a way where I was valued in a way that I wasn't in other spaces on campus, but also gave me really good experience and an income within the school environment, which I think is really, really important for low-income students. Having to work away from school, which I did unfortunately have to work outside of school as well, but when I was doing my work with ACE, I was still within the school environment. I was still able to sort of keep that mindset. And I think that's really powerful. So you don't have to switch from like food service to schoolwork. It
Right.
can be really nice to stay in that sort of environment if you can.
Absolutely. You speak really highly of the TRIO experience and the things that you've been able to do with TRIO. Can you tell us something you remember about TRIO or your favorite activity or event?
Yeah, so my favorite thing we did at ACE was what we called the summer transition program. It was a program for first years to get on campus a week early, sort of be able to see the campus, learn what the buildings were before all the other students got on campus. They engaged in fun activities. We were able to invite people from different departments to put on, workshops about here's how you get in contact with financial aid, like call me or email me if you need the bursar's office, things that, seem sort of mundane at the get-go, but really change your whole college experience just to, put a face to the person you're emailing or, be able to network. And so that was always really fun, obviously as a first year, but I was able to be involved with it all 4 years as a mentor and then a lead mentor.
Would you like to recognize some TRIO folks? I know you already did that a little bit, but would you like to recognize TRIO folks that helped you during your time in TRIO?
Yeah, so I already shouted out my director, Roy, Kathleen, my advisor, Riza Belen, who was our program coordinator, Monica, my co-lead, Daniel, our ACE social media genius, and honestly, all my friends at ACE were really not only just exceptional people, but really good friends, really good at, creating a welcoming culture at Loyola and within ACE. So,
what is something you learned about yourself while in college?
Um, as we've already talked about a little bit, I have a tendency to overexert myself. And so something I learned is that it's fine to have goals, and you definitely should create systems to get there. But everything, including your achievements, need to happen in moderation.
Absolutely, absolutely. As you neared graduation for your undergraduate career, was there a career that was taking shape, or were you thinking about graduate school at this point?
Yeah, so I had always wanted to pursue graduate school. I sort of think of myself as a lifelong scholar, so want to be involved in school my whole life. But unfortunately, I graduated in 2020.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
It
so
feels like the pandemic was like a whole lifetime ago.
yeah, it really does. And also as the years keep going by, it really it shocks me also how far away it is. But
Wow.
um yeah, so unfortunately, my plans were a little askew because of that. So it took
Hmm.
me a while to get here, but now I'm obviously in graduate school and set to graduate from my program next year. So
That's awesome. Can you talk about the moment you graduated from college? What was that moment like for you and for your family?
yeah, so obviously we hoped it would have been under better
Yeah.
circumstances. Unfortunately, I didn't get to actually walk, which was a little sad for us, but my family did do a little, you know, stood in my front yard with signs and stuff and, made it special for me either way. And, we were definitely very proud. It was nice to not only, have that sense of achievement for myself because, college is definitely not without its struggles for everyone. So
For sure.
it was very gratifying, but also, to be the first in my family to graduate from college was really, something special. I think especially for my parents and, my grandma who had always wanted to go to college and couldn't. So
Yeah, that's
that
awesome.
was really gratifying. Yeah.
So you're currently a student, a graduate student of the Student Affairs in Higher Education, the SAHI program known at Colorado State University. Go Rams. Why did you choose this program and this college? How, I want to know, like, you went from Loyola to here. How did that happen?
Yeah, so a few things. Outside of school, for one, I had realized in 2019 that I wanted to move to Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, obviously that took a little bit of a bit to accomplish as well due to
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
pandemic, but I'm here now.
Yes.
Um, and so yeah, CSU is definitely on my radar no matter what. But I sort of was reflecting after undergraduate and realized that I really missed my trio community. I wanted to work in student affairs. I found my work with the ACE program really gratifying, and I just sort of missed that environment. And I realized that, sort of all out of fate, CSU has one of the longest running, best programs in student affairs. And so it just kind of really worked out that way. And I was a late applicant to their online program because I just took the chance and, everything just sort of happened by fate where, they were able to accept me at the last minute. I started like pretty much right away. And so, yeah, I really think that it just all sort of came together in that way.
That's awesome. What field do you hope to work in, or what type of research do you hope to do when you graduate from your master's program?
Yeah, so personally I would love to work as a trio advisor.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, obviously I want to get back with that community. I've, certainly found my home there as an undergraduate. I would love to pursue that, moving forward. But also I think, being involved in student affairs in any way, that really promotes that equity and student success that TRIO is all about, would make me really fulfilled. And also sort of to that point, if I do get the opportunity to engage in research again, I would love to touch back with sort of social media and how it impacts our students.
Awesome. Well, I can certainly say that I'm thankful that you chose to attend Colorado State University for your master's program because we love the RAM community. I love the RAM community. It's amazing. What is something that you're learning about being in a master's program?
Yeah, so you really need to pace your own learning.
I feel like you
I
have a theme of moderation and pacing.
Yeah. And so, in undergrad, everything is really nicely spaced for you. You don't really realize how much work the professors are doing to sort of structure the class. And, you know, I think sometimes students complain about it. They're like, oh, I have so much homework, blah, blah, blah. But that homework is nice. That homework is kind of your professor guiding you on what you should be learning and,
Right.
how quickly you should be moving through your chapters and things like that. And so, being in graduate school, you really have to figure all that out on your own, like here's all your readings, um,
Mhm.
here are your lectures, and the lectures are spaced, but really you sort of have to figure out, okay, if I have a paper due in 6 weeks, I can't just, start the paper the week the paper's due. I have to sort of,
Right. Right.
figure out, and formulate my own creative ideas too about, they're not going to give you a prompt like, please cite the exact work,
Absolutely.
your reflections on it. You sort of have to come up with those things on your own. So it's definitely way more disciplined. And you need a lot of
Yes,
reflection.
absolutely. What advice do you have for trio professionals who are listening to this podcast?
So I think, especially right now, it's really crucial that we show students that their success matters to us, and really that they have a place on campus just like everyone else does. Particularly, I want to highlight our undocumented students right now. I think that it's just really important to have that safe space, that recognition, or I'm sorry, representation on campus. Additionally, don't forget your own influence and power. Every day you're changing the lives of students, and these students are really looking up to you. And so I think sometimes, the day-to-day of any job or work responsibility can get a little bit draining, but remembering that there are students who you're really making a huge impact in their lives, I think can sort of help put that into perspective. Like your work never goes unnoticed.
Absolutely. Good. I like the advice. That's really good. What about advice that you have for trio students in pre-college programs or in college programs or those programs that are serving students that are returning to college?
Yeah, so first and foremost, no matter what kind of student you are, you deserve to achieve your dreams, and you have a place wherever you choose to be. And so we belong in higher education, and trio students, just like you, just like me, are excelling every single day. And so as somebody who definitely didn't follow a traditional path in school either, I can say it's never too late or impossible for you to sort of take the next step in your life, whether that leads you towards education or not.
Wonderful. If you could choose only one song as your theme song, what would it be?
Unfortunately, this one's a little bit of a letdown because I think it would be impossible for me to choose. Music has just had such a big place in my life.
Yeah.
And so we'd be here all day if I had to choose one.
This would definitely be a multi-part podcast if you had to go through the playlist of songs you have.
Yeah.
Okay, so then simpler question, what are you listening to, reading, or watching?
Yeah, so recently I've been listening to a lot of audiobooks. So I'm currently reading The Obstacle is the Way. Other than that, I just finished an anime called Delicious in Dungeon. It was really, really good. If you're into that, I recommend it.
Right on. I've heard good things about it. My brother has been watching that anime and he's really enjoyed it. What aspect of that anime do you really like? Or is it the storytelling? Is it the characters? Yeah, what is it about the anime that really you like?
It's definitely a mix of everything. The art is really great. I'm really passionate about food, and that's a huge theme of the show. Yeah, the characters are really funny, relatable, great.
Using only one word, describe yourself.
Curious.
Love that. As you know, we're going to use that as the title of your podcast episode. Jamie, it has been a true pleasure to have you on this podcast. We got to know a little bit about you, your college journey. I wish you all the best with the master's program. I know you're rocking it over there. But yes, I'd love to have you back on this podcast to discuss a little bit more, to see what you've accomplished.
Yeah, I'd absolutely love to be back. And thank you so much for having me. Like I said, it was the first podcast I've ever been on, so this is really great. Thanks for taking the time to hear about my experience with Trio. I really love to talk about it. I could talk about Trio all the time.
That's wonderful. So we definitely need to have you back. So we have a tradition on the Let's Talk Trio podcast where we have the guests do the sign off. Do you care to do the honors?
Absolutely. Hi, this is Jamie McDowell, first-generation graduate of Loyola University Chicago and current master's in Student Affairs and Higher Education at Colorado State University. I'm a proud alum of Loyola's Trio program, Achieving College Excellence, and I can't wait to see what the new generation of scholars makes their mark on the world. Trio works.
Are you a participant, alum, or staff of a Trio program? Do you want your program highlighted? You or your program could be featured in an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Trio. Get a hold of us by going to our Facebook page or Instagram and send us a direct message. Search for Let's Talk Trio. We want to get your story to the public.
You just heard from our guest, Jamie McDowell, Trio alum of ACE and current graduate student at Colorado State University. Thank you, Jamie, for being on the podcast and for sharing your Trio journey. Remember, if you would like to be on the Let's Talk Trio podcast or know a staff, advocate, participant, or alumni, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Vialpando, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jeff Nepute, Angelica Valdez, Rosario Riley, Felicia Rivera, Eric LaMaster, Jeff Kahlden, and Jaded Electronics. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, TrioJoblist.com, NOSOTROS Education Center, The Trio Store, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio graduation stoles, and StudentAccess. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. You too can sponsor the Let's Talk Trio podcast in one of three ways. Become a monthly patron on Patreon. Our base level starts at $1 a month. Become a corporate sponsor. Sponsorship packages are available. Contact us for details. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast PayPal account. Our business handle is @Let'sTalkTrio. I'd like to take a moment to thank our honorary members of the Let's Talk Trio podcast, Roderick Chambers, Tony Ho, Scott Kendall, and Susan Cramp. The Let's Talk Trio podcast team is John Russell, audio engineer, music producer and composer, and post-production editor. Amelia Castañeda, script supervisor, marketing manager, social media manager, and producer. Juan Rivas, executive producer and host. Be sure to follow the Let's Talk Trio podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This episode was recorded Thursday, January 23rd, 2025. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode.